spiritually speaking, the winter is the time to maintain that inner light. So that's what I've been doing over the course of the last week since the last upload, as we go into winter and creating those positive affirmations for going through this off-grid winter, living off solar and some of the very basics while continuing the things that I do here on this YouTube channel. And I've been always interested in the spiritual message, but it's been the last couple of weeks and it's been in the last couple of months that something seems to have centered at the moment within my own focus. And there's reasons for that. And there's ideas, whether one calls it teach, share, there's concepts that I think others should be exposed to. We're living now in a day and age where the mind control is so pervasive in our lives, and it transcends things that come from the human realm. It includes the things of the unseen. This is currently not a civilization or a society that has evolved beyond attacking those members of its society, of its civilization, that would help it see the true light. So there is a particular reality to the physical world, the fallen world. And I want to make sure that our audio also is good. So let me know that the levels are right where they need to be, because today we're going to be going outside the box even further from what's on the news wire. And I've always known that there was some sort of controversy regarding a Gospel of Judas. This is not in the Nag Hammadi, but this was discovered in the 1970s. And so it seems that whether we're looking at the Dead Sea Scrolls, whether we're looking at the Nag Hammadi and the different interpretations and translations of those Coptic texts, of which they only found 13 codices or chapters, many of them ended up burned. But we also have the Coptic. You're probably not going to be able to see this at all because of the video settings. It's an image here of the page of the Gospel of Judas, which looks a lot like the Nag Hammadi, very similar in its appearance. And what we have here with these additional teachings that in no way are making claims that Jesus didn't exist, but in fact are adding to the things that he said, and some concepts are clarified. What's also interesting is when we start looking at information like this, mystical information, including that of the East, if you put aside the programmed hatred that we are taught in this society, this ethnocentric society, if you put that programming away, there's actually a lot of knowledge out there about the unseen forces that was put down thousands of years ago. And some of these religions may have been led in some cases by madmen or kingdoms that were really under the control of those same unseen realms. That is not to take away from the true word. That is not to take away from the true investigations and the respect for the many people that have come before us. So there's a deeper way in which I am interpreting this, and also the Son's involvement in this. And I'm saying all this now before I actually start reading from the book. So the concept of what we're going through with the solar cycle, what we're going to be going through, and its conjunction with the world wars, and how out of the fires of the wars, they aim to bring a new level of darkness to the earth, as of course we could be going into a deeper solar minimum long term. Not just one particular cycle, but the solar ambient radiation. And so these are really the last days, and I don't mean in a literal sense, right? And I don't just mean a few years. This Tower of Babel reality that we're in literally could extend another 100 years. It's really as if we are being tested from the highest order down and given as much rope as we need to hang ourselves. That's why we haven't seen the hour of the day yet that many people are looking for, right? There's plenty more time to build even larger skyscrapers, to connect our consciousness with technology even more, to misuse it and abuse it and be affected by it. So this is my response to the questions that are out there with regards to why haven't certain things happened yet on the earth. So I'm going to read a little bit from the introduction. And in another video, I'm going to come back and read to you something that is in the middle of this. But I checked this book out from the library during the same time period in which I returned the Nag Hammadi. And I didn't read the book front to back, but covered quite a bit of ground. And then got an idea of where the limitation was, and some of the things that I was looking for. So I see the scholarly work that was done into it. But then we go beyond the Nag Hammadi and we look at the Gospel of Judas, a more direct, and whether it be the translation or maybe they discovered, I'm still learning about this from the ground up, ladies and gentlemen, from the ground up. But we see here a continuation of the theme of the kingdom within, the God within, the light within, the truth within. The truth is within you. And there are also other sayings that are attributed to Sufi mysticism, which I've never officially studied, but I see parallels with certain schools of thought and literal actual sayings that in my mind I came to on my own. So the path to the ultimate truth lies within. Well, there's another saying, there are many paths to the ultimate divine wisdom and or many paths to God. So there's a lot of mysticism in early Christianity, and as well as other interpretations of Islam and other interpretations of other religions that are not known by the people of today's day and age, that have been wrongfully placed into a state of or place of more progressiveness or enlightenment than previous generations. On some levels, possibly, but those would be forms of technology. When we actually take the microscope to the way that people are relating to each other and things of that nature, things to a certain degree are getting worse. And while, right, there is value in understanding how the unseen forces interact with our world so we can prevent our soul from being super corrupted, today's day and age shuns that knowledge, as I started with. Those people that want to help enlighten or illuminate, shine light on this area that affects the human soul. And while that's taking place, those people are shunned. We're moving into a whole new level of technology being used against the human species in a form of black magic. It's occultic. So the future is going to have a lot of mind control, really black magic, because, to influence someone else's mind, however you attempt to do it, however they attempt to do it, is a form of black magic, specifically when it's done to violate someone's free will. So to manipulate people's minds, to get them to say, go do something to someone else or another group, just simply to do it. Selling something is one thing, but when deceit is involved, there is some interesting cryptocurrency news that I have to share with you, a very interesting expose about a particular individual in the alternative media that got the fame that he was looking for, but perhaps not in the way that the New York Times and CNBC put it out there, and talked about how he received $7,500 to push hiking cryptocurrency IPO on his YouTube channel with 500,000 subscribers. Well, he always wanted that fame. Now he's got that fame. Be careful what you ask for. And I'm already off topic, but am I? Am I off topic? Am I off topic? Maybe the Creator gives us what we ask for. Maybe the demiurge or the fallen god of this world, not the true Creator, gives some of those what they're asking for. While some people think they're being looked upon in a favorable light by God and his kingdom and his riches, they may not know that humans are often misled by gifts and presents and wealth in this fallen world. They may confuse themselves to be one of the chosen or to be looked upon by the Most High in a favorable light, when in reality, just like our world today, could in reality be given just enough rope to hang itself. So I think, by the way, that we're not going to be rescued out of this world, although we should be spiritually prepared as well as physically and mentally. What we're really dealing with a slow creep alien invasion and alteration of the human world. And this could continue way beyond Jetsons like technology. But there's a reason why mankind potentially has foreseen the transhumanistic reality, with the Borg saying resistance is futile. Resistance is futile. Is that really all modern Homo sapien Hollywood mythos or mythology? Or is there a deeper gnosis in what could also be described as the many high-tech robot apocalypse visions that have been shared by the people of this world of this particular day and age? And I would say that there are many people, although their visions aren't really clear to them, and fallen spirits from the unseen realms can also inject false visions into key individuals that play key roles in the media and or politics. Now, I'm going way deeper outside the box of what I intended with this video. So this is just going to be kind of a brief return to YouTube dissertation of the truth. I'm going to read a little bit from this and come back in this free flow. Over the years, the sands of Egypt have surrendered countless treasures and archaeological wonders, and now they have yielded another spectacular find, the Gospel of Judas, recently discovered and published here for the first time. So, just double checking when this book was published. This book was actually published, I believe, shortly after discovery. Discovery was in the 70s. This book was published a couple of years ago, about 10 years ago. Now, the very title of this text is shocking. In the New Testament, Gospels, and most of the Christian tradition, Judas is portrayed as the traitor, the betrayer of Jesus, who turns his master into the Roman authorities. And there is little in his character that could connect him with the gospel or good news of Jesus. So it sounds like Judas was marginalized in a particular way by the New Testament. It said that Satan enters into Judas like an archon or a jinn and drives him to his despicable deed. Yet, even in the New Testament, there's something captivating about Judas. The account of Judas betraying Jesus remains a story of great power. Jesus is betrayed by one of his closest friends. In the New Testament Gospels, Judas is part of the inner circle of disciples of Jesus. And according to the Gospel of John, Judas functions as the treasurer of the group and is entrusted with whatever funds Jesus and the disciples might have. The enigma of Judas, the disciple and betrayer of Jesus, has been explored by many who have wondered about Judas's character and motivation. He is the hero of the gospel. He says to Jesus, "I know who you are and where you have come from. You are from the immortal realm, and I'm not worthy to utter the name of the one who has sent you in the spiritual world of the Gospel of Judas. To confess that Jesus is from, quote, the immortal realm of Barbelo is to confess that he is a divine being, and to declare the power of the name of the one who sent Jesus is to profess that the true God is the infinite spirit of the universe." Now, I want to say something else. There is a pattern that emerges with psychic protection, psychic self-defense. And it's a pattern that emerges with people that are experienced at this, and that is evoking the Most High. And the intention of invoking the power of the Most High over other entities is highly recommended. And not only books like Dion Fortune's, but Orthodox religions. I'm telling you, there's crossover. So people could be living in different times, different ethnicities, right? So it could be somewhere in the Middle East thousands of years ago, or somewhere else thousands of years ago. I think of the people living today, or people living 100 years ago in Britain, and there could be like key spiritual concepts and principles that are essentially the same when you remove the language. It's comparative, not religion, spiritual gnosis or understandings, and it's there. You know, the reason some of us may be knee deep in conspiratorial content or showing people the dark side is because to show them the dark side is to also recognize that there is a light. There is a contrast to the deception, to those that just give themselves away to lust, desire, ego, the fallen states of consciousness, ego, lust, anger, and fear, and the subcategories in which those lower world sensations drive us down. So much of Gnosis is less about the demiurge and archons and how one rises above this world and rises above desire. And then we start to see the parallels and understandings and the recognitions of the true being within and or the true spiritual creator of all that is, and not getting caught up in the gods of this world. This book exposes Jesus exposing the God of this world. It's going to take us some time to get there. It's not all going to be read today. But I'm going to go over some of the basic concepts. A little bit of an introduction, though, for people that have never heard about this. Judas finally betrays Jesus in the Gospel of Judas, but he does so knowingly at the sincere request of Jesus. Jesus says to Judas, with reference to the other disciples, "You will exceed all of them, for you will sacrifice the man that clothes me." According to the Gospel of Judas, Jesus is a savior, not because of the mortal flesh that he wears, but because he can reveal the soul or spiritual person who is within. And the true home of Jesus is not this imperfect world below, but the divine world of light and life. Also, I do think there's something about the idea of the returning sun, or the sun returning, and I'm talking about that thing in the sky and the changes that it's going to bring in our world, and I believe the sun is a symbol of the Creator in our world. It sits as a symbol. That doesn't mean that things should be sacrificed to it. That doesn't mean that it is necessarily God-limited, but that God is an expression, or it is an expression of God in a very direct way in this world. And it is a regulator of life, and the sun gives life even to those jinn, archons, and other mischievous forces that attack mankind. So the sun is a provider of life for all, and there are a lot of parallels between the description of the jinn and the archons, but more description way deeper of the jinn. Regardless of any of the views that we have been programmed to take on regarding understandings of the supernatural and unseen that comes from other places and other times. And so for members at VHX, there is a fresh video that's touching on that, but it is something that goes down the rabbit hole. You look at the archons, the description of the archons in our world, there's not a whole lot beyond the demiurge creation story, or the creation of the demiurge in the fallen world, the fall of Sophia. But then we also have the modern gnosis, where we see things like Beetlejuice, we see the Matrix, we see the Truman Show, we see other allegories. Even the Terminator has a little bit of a Gnostic allegory to a certain degree. I mean, there literally could be spiritual versions of the Terminator story playing itself out where people are targeted on a soul level because of the light that they have to share with the world. So a spiritual story can easily be made into like an action film with time-traveling artificial intelligence with the T-1000, and that literally can be metaphoric for other things that are taking place in our world. For Jesus in the Gospel of Judas, death is no tragedy, nor is it a necessary evil to bring about the forgiveness of sins. In the Gospel of Judas, unlike the New Testament Gospels, Jesus laughs a great deal. He laughs at the gullibility of the disciples and the absurdities in human life. Death, as the exit from this absurd physical existence, is not to be feared or dreaded. So this book has my mind going and activating, thoughts circulating around. Now, I've actually only had this book for about a day, but I've been looking at other concepts for a few days. It is important to invoke the Most High when looking into the realms of the unseen, even pondering, because they could be attracted to us, but that's what leaves some in fear. I've dealt with bumping. I've dealt with things, the wall being hit. I've dealt with stuff that there's no point in mentioning it because it's not a novel thing for me like it is for other humans to encounter poltergeist activity. Even the cat was looking at it and what's that? I've even seen, or felt things like walking as if there's another cat. Things like that. And so those are times to invoke the Most High, Supreme Being, creator of all that is, and partake in shielding. Certain things work, certain things don't. Certain things can sabotage a way that someone goes about protecting themselves. So I'm elaborating on certain things on VHX, moving certain ideas forward that are on that platform for members only, because this content appears to be not only very judged by people of the world, but for whatever reason, the algorithm buries content like this on YouTube. So what I have to do is ponder for a few days, what is the most important truth? Because this is not about money. And so there may be days where I don't do videos every single day. I may be pondering and bringing in that truth and listening in the silence, and then listening some more, and then getting in the habit of writing, getting in the habit of reading different things, different spiritual texts at the same time, at random. So there's been those type of intuitive moments of Googling random things that have brought up various bits of information recently that I could have found before, and I was mentioning this before to you, to follow that intuition when there's that moment to put in those combination of keywords and then read that article. Technology is an amazing thing. It's an amazing thing in the fact that people don't have to be gathered in the same spot to learn something from someone. You can be from anywhere in the Western countries where YouTube can be seen, and you can receive this message. Technology is also used, and they're attempting to use it, to alter free will. And the 5G implementation on time for the next solar cycle, knowing what you know about the mix of the unnatural and natural electromagnetic spectrum and the potential ties to the supernatural. If you're not a first-time viewer of this channel, you've heard me talk about this probably over 10 times. And so what we're looking at as we look towards the 2020s is a supernatural event that is coming upon the horizon, where many roads and paths of the dark side, they attempt to bridge together and cross the lines. To the staged world wars, to the off-world agenda, to the civil domestic unrest, and the extremist political violent movements that will precede the occupation, right? And so this nation is already dancing with the supernatural. This nation as a construct is already under their control. There's only so much that we can save. So before we save others, we have to save ourselves. And we have to, come to an understanding, what does it mean to save oneself? Have there been ways in this inverted world that they try to take control over religions and the supposed teachings of Jesus and say, this is what it means to be saved? And this is how you see the evil in this world. Now we're going to flip it, move it around. They're going to teach people how to become evil, but they'll tell people that they're good while they do it. So today you have a lot of people that think they're Christians, but they're actually participating in satanic ideologies. And they also teach people, right, that they teach people that it's evil to be aware of the supernatural. By the way, it also came to me that L. Ron Hubbard, although I have not studied his work directly or his life, but from what I sense and from what I have watched, we're talking about like a deep study. I've watched plenty of documentaries and videos. It seems like Dianetics is plagiarized Gnostic and Orthodox religious content. And so the attempt to make it about himself, same thing potentially with Crowley, same thing with others that have walked what's also called the left-hand path, where they turn away from God and they seek to manipulate spiritual teachings and immortalize themselves. You can also think about the Ultimate Warrior, who literally talked about immortalizing himself or being immortal or an immortal or something like that in his speech a day or two before he died. Whatever that ritualistic death may have been about, death or killing. And so there could be something to people that try to make themselves gods while they're alive, whether they know it or not, so that when they pass over, at least in their ideology or mind, they think they can be immortalized. There's also another movie that I watched, The Nine Gates, starring Johnny Depp. And that is a movie where a very powerful, very wealthy individual is seeking the supposed real satanic Bible. He wants to get all 3 copies because he realizes his copy is not helping him to see the devil. And in almost a comical but sick way, he finally finds the book that he thinks is the ultimate book. And yes, he ultimately finds a way to see the devil after he kills people, sets himself on fire, and realizes that he's not going to become the devil or see the devil. He's literally going to burn to death. And then maybe he'll see the devil. So there is maybe some gnosis or truth in that movie when we think about the world elite. We think about the Alex Joneses of the world, or the people that people thought were good, but were really evil in a dark, dark way, in a super, super dark way. And maybe they think that with their crypto injections that they're going to live forever, or other injections, or their other off-world agendas, or their buddies are going to help them evolve or get off the earth before the earth, or when the earth goes through its what may be coming. And so there's going to be a lot of people left holding the bag, left empty-handed, that are going to realize that the ideologies that they bought into are not going to save them. And even if they found a way to cheat death and live forever, what kind of a world do you think that they're going to be living on in 50 years? You see, because I don't want to rush this. I don't want to leave out my own spiritual epiphanies as I read this. We're taught to fear death. We're taught by this society, by this world, this fallen world. We're taught to fear the sun. We're taught by others, faceless people, that emerge that there is no sun as well. The oldest conspiracy theory, coming home to roost, as they say. And so we are dealing with a reality where the greater reset is not economic, nor is it war. It's something larger that will affect the whole earth, that will affect the current Roman order. It could be today. It could be in 2165, when the rope that we've had to hang ourselves builds these massive transhumanistic THX 1138 realities. Right? The Creator may be giving us enough rope. It also could be giving us enough time and safety. You know, it's also said by certain religions, that some people are just born naturally with a certain protection from God. That doesn't necessarily seem to require like absolute worship or servitude. But it's when that hand of protection is removed, that certain phenomena takes place, because we are sharing space here on earth with very evil deities. However, they were created. But also keeping in mind that some of these deities could be brought to life through massive death of humans through war. This is something that intuitively I see. We've been under a massive demonic spell since World War II, actually. There's been like a stepping stone, a progression of things as the epochs change. And as the epochs change at the gates of the door, like bouncers at a nightclub, right? The archons rotate their work shift over certain regions, over certain times. That's how I see it. And they're serving something else. And it's a world. This is a lower simulated world that for whatever reason we are in. We are in a simulated world where life is mimicked. Life exists, but right, the idea of God is mimicked. The idea of truth is inverted. Sexuality is perverted. Things that the Creator has brought to life are desecrated. And people that come in the name of the Lord swing with a mighty stick anything that moves. as they threaten those around them. Don't be a heretic. As we have our way with humanity through the Orthodox religions, don't be a heretic. And so, as I said in previous videos, not a big focus today, but you'll notice that atheists and Orthodox folks often have the same beefs with the genuine spiritualist who is telling humanity to look within and to rise above the fear of death and to rise above the institutions of this world. So it talks about what they kept in the New Testament. Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And then we have what's missing. We have the Gospel of Thomas, which is in the Nag Hammadi, the Gospel of Peter, Gospel of Philip, Mary, the Nazarenes, the Hebrews, and the Egyptians, to name a few. And these Gospels demonstrate the rich diversity, oh my God, the D word, of perspectives, the P word, nothing like a P following a D, in the New World Order. Within early Christianity, the Gospel of Judas may be classified as what is often called a Gnostic gospel, probably composed around the middle of the 2nd century, most likely on the basis of earlier ideas and sources. The Gospel of Judas represents an early form of spirituality that emphasizes gnosis or knowledge, mystical knowledge, knowledge of God and the essential oneness of the self with God. And if you've ever studied or looked into mystical Sufism and the period in time at which it blossomed, there is a lot of parallel between Gnostic thought and early Islamic mysticism. This is way before the events of the modern day and age, right? And in a region that wasn't being bombed back to the Stone Age, to where it wasn't under full-scale bombardment. There were things that were happening. There was the progress of sharing of ideas. This world has never been perfect. That's why we're here. But there have been other times, including other times in Europe, where there is more of an openness to spiritual ideas, even in this country. So we can literally see dark ages like in future times, to where things actually turn out worse or are worse than they were. And see, in this false world, it's always about viewing everything getting better and everything behind us being bad. And that's an inversion. That's a disrespect of our ancestors, things that they created and the things that they understood and the things that they spoke of, or the things that they created. So you need to also be aware of that. There's ways in which this world tries to program us with its mind, the emanations of the jinn, archon, demonic consciousness of this world. We need to reject that. And so as we go deeper into this type of literature, the true enlightenment and freedom from death, and death could be seen as being bound to this world, bound to samsara. But it's to understand where the real life is and to renounce the things of this world. Now I understand why the off-grid journey has been more of a spiritual thing for me than a prepper thing. But it's about renouncing one of the things of this world. So I could continue, and I should, but I want to keep this under an hour. So let me just conclude with some of these other ideas. Such a direct approach to God as is, to be, found in Gnostic spirituality requires no intermediary. After all, God is the spirit and the light within. And the evidence from early church and the heresiologists, the heresy hunters within the church, indicates that the priests and bishops were not pleased with these free-thinking Gnostics. The writing of the heresiologists are filled with accusations that Gnostics entertained evil thoughts and engaged in illicit activities. Online slander. The Gnostic Gospel of Judas returns the favor by accusing the leaders and members of the emerging Orthodox Church of all sorts of unsavory behavior. According to the Gospel of Judas, these rival Christians are simply lackeys of the God who rules this world below and lives their lives and their lives reflect his disgusting ways. That's all for now, right? We're going to be back. Check out the links down below if you enjoy content like this. Kind of a rough winter, but I am choosing to focus on this inner journey and this quest for the clues that can unlock doors that have previously been sealed. I'm Alex Hansen, reminding you the path to the ultimate truth and place of power still lies within.